Hello and welcome to Walk With Me, the podcast. I am your host, Bédard, and today I'll invite you to embark on the journey that is as simple as it is profound, the act of walking together. Now, the name Walk With Me is intentional, me is my initials, Marie, but it also stands for me as in each one of us. So this podcast is a place where I want us to explore life, death, everything in between and beyond. Over the years, I've witnessed that growth and evolution can be daunting for a lot of people, but when we get out of our heads and walk the path together, something truly magical happens. We collapse time, we tap into our inner wisdom, and unlock amazing potentialities. So this journey is not just about walking. It's more than just putting one foot in front of the other. It's about exploration. It's about the deep connections we form with ourselves, with others, and with the world around us as we move through life. So together, we'll dive into the discoveries of science, the teachings of the heart, and the revelations of the soul. From the frequency of the Black Forest and journey where I live, I'll be added some sacred feminine wisdom and collective consciousness. We'll explore how everything shapes our lives and our path. So lace up your shoes and let's walk together on this path of growth and evolution. Hi, and welcome back to an episode of Walk With Me, the podcast. I am your host, Bédard, and I'm actually emotional today as I come in to share something with you that I was, a few years ago, I don't think that I would have come forward is in such a rawness and such an authentic way of being to share what's in my heart and what's happening in my life. And at the same time, like this, this podcast is called Walk With Me. And the point is actually for you to walk with me, to feel and to see how I lead myself from within in my day-to-day life as things happen to me. So welcome to this episode. Welcome to this episode is going to be a little bit different in a sense that I am going to literally read two things that I wrote this week. And to provide you with a little bit of context, I have accompanied my beloved dog, Nanook, last Sunday over the Rainbow Bridge. And she has been by my side for 14 and a half years. She was going to turn 15 years old in April this year. And the journey with her has been such an incredible journey, and it has been such intertwined with my own personal growth and evolution journey that I cannot not come here with like today and share that with you in a way that will be different than the conversational that I usually do, but at the same time, like the words that I use, the writing, the way that I share my inner thoughts and my heart and my soul's calling by journaling or by sharing like stories is actually just another way of having a conversation with you. So to provide you a little bit of context, Nanook came into my life the year after I lost my mom. So that was 2010 April. And the same year I had my car accident. So if you have listened to specifically the She Gave Me Life Twice episode, which is the first episode of the podcast that was formerly called Re-Envision, I actually shared, and actually that's actually a really raw episode as well, but I shared how accompanying my mom to the end of life really changed me and the insight that I got from that. So Nano came into my life that same year. So in April, I lost my mom, and in August that year, I actually got into a car accident that was the beginning of developing chronic pain, and that I actually like really had chronic pain for 5 years. So before I really, discover other layers of healing that was outside of the conventional medicine, and also movement therapy and fascia therapy and all of that you know wonderful other healing, alternative healing processes that is really tapping into how our body works, how our mind, heart, soul, body is interconnected, and how holistically, when we go into healing, when we go into healing in a way that is holistic, then it is really life changing. And so anyways, so she came into my life at that point, and at that point I was a lot like, I was overwhelmed with grief. Obviously, I was overwhelmed with pain. I was having multiple daily anxiety panic attacks. I basically was overwhelmed with so much pain that I was in a place where I did not want to continue anymore. I did not want to live. And the interesting part is that back then we had a cat, and his name was Chichen, and my husband, who was not my husband, he was my boyfriend. We were living together, and he actually kind of said like, "Oh, I think that Chichen is lonely. How about we go and adopt a second cat for him?" And we went to the SPCA because all our animals are rescue animals. So we went to the Montreal SPCA, and we were looking at cats, and we there was nothing that was clicking. And I told my husband, I said, well, how about we just take a break? And that was actually Thanksgiving weekend. It was the Saturday of Thanksgiving weekend back in 2010. And I just said to my husband, like, well, let's just, go into the dog kennel and take a break from the cat thing. And in my mind, it was like, we're never going to adopt a dog, so we're safe there. And as soon as we walked into the kennel, I was looking at the dogs, and like, I think within, I don't know, 30 seconds, I've lost my husband. And I was like, where are you? Like, hey, honey bunny, where are you? Where are you? And all of a sudden I turn around the corner and I find my husband like all fours on the ground in front of one of the cages, one of the kennels. And I see this beautiful blonde and black dog who's curled up like a donut, like those husky position when they're sleeping. They're all curled up like in a donut, and they even put their muzzle under their tail. And then my husband was kind of like trying to get our attention. And I said, oh, I just, I actually leaned over. I think I got on my knees, and I told my husband, I said, well, if you want, we could adopt a dog instead of a second cat. And he said something about along the lines of, no, uh, but can we just get some information on her? And I said, sure. And we did. We got information on her at the SPCA in Montreal. They do like behavioral, like a whole background check, but they also like check the behavior of the dog and the cats, obviously. So we had information coming in from there. So we looked at like everything on, everything on paper was perfect. Like she was the perfect dog for us. And I reiterated to my husband, like we can adopt a dog if you want. And he was like, no. And the lady back in the counter, she was like, do you want to take her for a walk? And I said to my husband, I said, well, we can take her for a walk. Like I know that they're short staffed. The dogs don't get walked nearly as much as they need. So I was like, let's take her for a walk. And we did. We did take her for a walk. And she just stole our heart. And we came back. And the SPCA lady, she was like, so how did it go? And we looked at each other, my husband and I, and we're like, yeah, she's coming home with us. And she came home with us. And that was the start of a beautiful adventure with her. She has been with us for 14 and a half years. And we have lived, my husband and I, as a couple, but also individually, like so many lives and embodied so many identities over that 14 and a half years. And she has been with us along, like every single step of the way. Like she came into even our relationship, in our relationship dynamic early on, and there's so many stories that she is part of. And she was the one that, because she was so attuned to how I felt, she really was sent like a guardian angel to me at a point in my life where I needed her. And I'm convinced that on some level it's my mom that sent her to me, or at least that I manifested her, because she brought so much light and joy. And she really she really made me a better person, and she made me see so much different perspective. And she challenged me in ways that I don't even know that I would have grown this fast into all these directions. And last year, around this time of year, we actually discovered a tumor, a lipidic tumor, like a fat tumor, and we had it removed. That was all fine. And then in July, she was having like some issues health wise, and we brought her to the vet. And then after the exam, the physical exam, we discovered that she had a tumor that was so close to her rectum that it was and so big that it was inoperable. It would have made her incontinent, and so there was nothing that we could do other than keep her comfortable. And when we got the news, we actually initially thought that we would have like 1 or 2 weeks with her. And I remember like it happened maybe 1 week or 2 weeks before I led the 30 days she rise, like how to rise like a phoenix and how to claim grief and all the different aspects of it, which was a 30-day experience in Telegram with me. And I just thought that it was interesting that it happened there. And so we started the process of anticipatory grief, and moving pieces alongside, because we have another dog, and we Loki has never been without Nanook. So we were discussing like what would happen when it's time. What do we want to do with her body, like all of that, like all of the discussions that we have when a beloved animal is at the end of their lives. And there were so many things that were, as I was going through that anticipatory grief, there were so many things that I was first like seeing and acknowledging, like as the end of life time, and all the little things that happens then when you support like another being um as their health declines. And it was interesting because I was saying to my husband, like, it's weird because there's so many parallels that I can actually like feel that is intertwined with what happened with my mom, and how things unfolded, and how I actually led myself through that. And also just because of the fact that Nanook came into my life to actually bring me back to light in the process of grieving of my mother. So there is a link between the two. And I think that in life we don't necessarily see that. Often our griefs are intertwined with each other, and how we react to one is leaving like traces and behaviors and patterns like that are picked up with the next one and the next one, which makes a big bundle. And this is what we actually like work in one-on-one sessions, whether it's on longer term like 3 months, 6 months, or also like in like shorter term. And when we start to unfold that, we realize how there's a whole bunch of the little nods in our lives that are creating a matrix and that are intertwined together, and we start to see the bigger picture more than just the singular events. And when we start to do that, we realize how complex it is, but how when we look at the big picture, we can find the dominoes, or the main dominoes, that help us to release what needs to be released and move forward afterwards. So we were doing that, and every single day we were monitoring her, and I'd say like once a week or once every 2 weeks we had a list, like, okay, like is it time? Because we knew that it was going to be the decision that we have to make for her. We always say that the animals, when they're ready, they will tell us, but it's not, I don't believe that. And the other thing is that she was such a high strung, um, ride or die, that was like dog, that was really like all in willpower. She could have gone for 25 walks a day, even towards the end. Like she was, her mind was there, her heart was there. Like she was just such an incredible, like, life lover dog that we're seeing that her body was declining, and she was overcompensating and overcompensating. So we knew that it was going to be like a time where we would have to take the decision to let her go. And we wanted to make sure that we give her the opportunity to live her life as long as possible with the quality of life that we could give her. And at the same time, avoid, having too long of a time where, um, before, like, we didn't want her to suffer, basically. And it's interesting because I always, like, from the get go, I always told my husband about a conversation that I had with my mom, like when we realized that the cancer was metastasized and we couldn't do anything about it, and it was just a matter of time and like palliative care and making sure that she was comfortable and making sure that she was making this decision to keep sense of agency with her, and for me it was important that in every decision that she was making, that once she knew that she could change her mind and course correct or whatever, but also that the decisions she had to make was for herself and not because she was feeling pressure from anybody. And I remember that I told her that, uh, even if I loved her more than life itself, I would never keep her, like, at any cost. Like there's for me it was clear there was no, when it was time, and I didn't want her to feel any burden of that she needed to do or make a decision that was, um, to think about me more than her. And I was telling my husband, I said, well, if I was able to say that to my mom, 15 years ago, it's certainly going to apply to Nanook. And that's what we did. And as the time passed by, that the tumor grew and grew and grew, and I actually, like, it was multiplying a lot. And last Sunday morning, I actually told my husband, I said, I think it's time for us to call the vet and take an appointment, because I feel like this difficulty that we're having right now with her, is not a passing by one. I think that that's time, right? Like, because she's been having like ups and downs and ups and downs. And like I was saying, like once every 2 weeks, maybe we had a list and like checklist of like, is her quality of life still good? And check, like, if most of the things of the questions were yeses, then it was okay. But if we started to have like more no's, then we knew that it was going to be time. And listeners, if you want that list, just reach out to me and I'll gladly share that list with you. And interestingly enough, I think that we had to read more in between the lines to know that there was actually at that point more no's than yeses, because she was still running, if anything, like weirdly. And um, her willpower of surviving was very strong. And we really had to make the decision. And it's not because she actually told us that it was time. We actually decided for her. And so I told my husband on Sunday to call the vet. And I don't know if you know, but in Europe, or certainly in Germany, everything is closed on Sunday. And my husband was like, well, it's going to be closed. And I said, well, worst comes to worst, they're closed. We'll leave a message and then they'll call us back. And um, it's a family practice, right? So the wife of the veterinarian answered, and we've been, for the last 7 months, we've been regularly going to the vet, seeing how it evolves. And course correcting the palliative care for her if she needed and whatnot. And so they knew that it was coming. I went to the vet maybe the last time before that, maybe 10 days before. And so we knew that it was coming, like the conversation that I had with the vet, like we knew that it was coming. So the vet's wife answered, and so it was around 10 a.m. in the morning on Sunday. And my husband like talked to her, and and he said, like, is it possible to make an appointment? And she said, well, tomorrow won't be possible because my husband is not there, and I just need to check if it's possible to do tonight. Can you call me back? And then all of a sudden she's like, no, no, never mind. Can you make it for 11:30 today? And my husband looked at me. He was like, are you ready for 11:30? And I remember I looked at my watch and it was 10:15. And then I said, yeah, let's do this. So he hung up the phone with her. We I hopped in the shower, got dressed, give Nanook a like lots of treats. I even made a Kong filled with peanut butter for her. We hop into the car. We drove to the vet's office, and at some point after we went on the not the highway, but like the higher, faster road, when we got to the city where the vet is, I opened the window and I let her like have her head out of the window, which I hadn't. Over the years, she had like all little things like ears problems, eyes problems. So I wasn't doing that because I didn't want her to catch anything. But at that point, it didn't matter. So I let the window open, so she had her head out of the window, and she was just happy. She was a happy dog. And we got to the vet, and she really always got super nervous at the vet, and um she was hiding. Usually she hides behind me, but she was hiding like in between my legs, like literally, like I was like I was she was a horse, like she really went into in between my legs. And the vet gave her the first shot to calm her down, and we got her to calm down. She lied on my lap, on the like so I sat down on the floor. She lied on my lap. She actually fought. She didn't want to like let go, and the vet gave her a second shot, and she fell asleep on my lap. And so as I was stroking her, she was getting calmer and calmer, and then the vet, after my husband sat next to me on my left hand side. Most of Nanook's body was on my right hand side. So we held her, and the vet, looked at us. We gave the nod, and she actually left this world. I could not have honestly planned a better way for us to do this. Like, we always think that we want to make the perfect decisions, the perfect timing, the perfect. And when we lead with our hearts, and when we look at the signs that are there, that's when the things unfold in a perfect way, rather than when we start to think about planning from our head, with expectations, and forcing things to fall in a way that is never going to be the way that it's supposed to be unfolding. And so I'm really grateful for that. And I'm grateful for the fact that the vet, that we have, which is such an incredible vet, like not only his talent, but also like the kind and compassionate time that he actually spends with his clients, with the animals, with the patients that he has, the pet patients that he has. It's just an incredible. And I want to shout out to, if you're a vet and you're listening to me, I just want to say thank you so much, because your work changes lives, especially in moments like that. So thank you so much. So we drove back home. We have decided to have her cremated because we want the ashes, and so we drove back home, and it's the house is quiet, not because like our house was like not quiet, but because she was sick. Like she had a big personality, obviously, but also like she was pacing a lot. She had a lot, like she needed more attention in the past months and weeks specifically. So there was always like this tension in the house that is no longer there. But we are sitting in that spaciousness right now, and we're allowing our grief to unfold the way that it unfolds beautifully. And today I went for a nice walk with Loki on one of the paths that I usually take. I was taking either with Nanook alone or him and Nanook. We're trying to keep the routine as much as possible. He certainly understands that she's no longer there. And so we're slowly, like, without changing the routine, without doing anything to force, like, we're really making sure that we're taking some time to feel what we need to feel and to love the memories that we have and the time that we spent together, honoring all of that, and making sure that we're regulating our nervous system, that we're really um, honoring the feelings that we have and the emotions that are coming up when they come up. And we are giving each other a lot of hugs. And I was, I didn't want to like make this big thing on social media or even with my friends and family, but like on the day of, I wrote in my group of fellow, because I'm training as to become a death midwife right now. So we have a group, and I share that with the wonderful woman that I'm with. I also inform my close friends and family, and then on Monday I posted uh, a post, and I was trying to find like a whole like bunch of pictures to kind of make like a multi-picture post, and I was trying to find like memorable moments, but there's so many moments, like there's millions of moments that we have shared in that 14 and a half years. And I decided in the end to share the wonderful picture of her running when she was about 1 year old, a 1.5 year old, that one of my friends took of her back in the days, where like she took that picture with like an old camera that had nothing to do with like the cameras that we have now on our phones. But it's just a beautiful picture of her running in the snow in a park back in Montreal. And I shared these few lines that I'm going to read to you. And then today I shared another post on grief more broadly, in relationship with how I feel about this loss, but also with loss altogether, like all the losses that we go through, the losses of the beings that we have relationship with, whether it's human or non-human. So I hope that you enjoy, and I'm sending you so much love, and I will talk to you next week. In the meantime, I will just spend some time to read what I wrote. It's truly the end of an era. 14 and a half years is quite a chunk of time. There's hundreds of pictures that I could have shared here today. That time when she cracked open our hearts at the Montreal SPCA when we were there to adopt a cat and instead came home with her. That time when she stole the book on how to raise a husky that I was reading right after she created the perfect distraction for me to put it down on my lap, scratch her neck. That time when she started people that initially thought she was a statue looking through the front window of her dive shop in Montreal. That time when she had her head out the car window for the 5.5 hour drive back from diving at Les Escoumets, despite the pouring rain. She was so wet, she looked like a puppy seal. That time when she systematically dug up the flowers in the backyard planter box so she can lie down in the cool earth. I used to call it our coffin because at some point I just let it go and I let it just be the cool earth that she lied in. That time when she found a rabbit nest in her backyard and wreaked havoc before I could only save the last rabbit baby. That time when she swam across the lake at the Angry Park so she could meet with another dog on the other side. That time when she pulled her doggy bed on top of ours to be more comfortable. That time when she took in Loki as if he was our own puppy and raised him like an army general to follow the strict rules she laid out for him. She did that all the way until the end. That time when she stopped walking after throwing her back out, scaring the bejesus out of us 1 week before our planned flight to leave Canada for Germany. At that point, we didn't even think that she was going to make it. We thought that that was the end. And sure enough, she actually showed us that recovery is always an option. That time when we found her overlooking the neighborhood while lying totally balanced on the edge of the rooftop of our new house in Saint Hubert. That time when she excitedly greeted us after spending a week at Uncle Bill's kennel, and she herded us to show us around like a kid at the end of the summer camp. That time when she proudly pulled the sleigh through the snowy streets of Montreal after a snowstorm to bring the new small fridge from Home Depot to our dive shop. That time when she got her first ribbon and certificate for participating in agility classes at Gitcanet in the west of Montreal. That time when she tried to swim towards 2 dozen of geese at Loch 21 in Ontario, only to find out that geese are quite aggressive and they were not going to let her intimidate them at all. That time when she stole the shovel away. Actually, that happened more than once because she preferred we played in snow rather than shovel it away. That time when, that time when, that time when. We're blessed with hundreds of pictures and millions of memories with her. She, like us, lived dozens of lives in the last 15 years. This angel was sent to me in the form of a dog to help me through one of the darkest time of my life. A time where I was drowning under the weight of grief, daily multiple panic attacks, and medication intake that was robbing me from my sense of self. A time where the overwhelming chronic pain was such that I didn't want to live any longer. She taught me patience, devotion, and unconditional love. She showed me layers of willpower and resilience I didn't even know I already had. She consistently reminded me of the importance of the present moment long before I learned how to do that for myself. She actually did that all the way till the end because the last 7 months was living only in the present moment. She came into my life to literally and figuratively walk me back to light's light. She was not rescued. She rescued me. She made us, Stoney and I, a family. And I will be forever in debt to her for all of it. We can only begin to repay that to her by guiding her to the other kind of light. As she lied on me Sunday morning, heavy in her earthly body whose function were now overrun by tumors we couldn't do anything about anymore, I thanked her for all the adventures she allowed us, to have with her. She was a heck of a ride or die one, up until the end, and we love her for it. Run forever free, dear Nanook. You are already missed beyond words. Mom, Dad, and your brother Loki. The world does not change because the ones we love are no longer by our side. It is the eyes of our heart that are forever transformed by the alchemized intertwining of our souls together. The relationships we welcome into our lives are life altering because they teach us beyond the information in a book or a school blackboard. They burrow deep into our heart and rearrange its perspective at its core. The world is not forever changed because the ones we love are no longer in it. It is our own experience of the world that is forever altered by the catalyzing power of our shared moments. May we all remember the overflowing joy and the shared happiness we receive through living with an open heart. May we never close our hearts to the next encounter because the last one was too painful to endure or to let go. May we listen to the wisdom that grief brings us, like sitting at the feet of Mother Nature, teaching her children about love, cycles, and the present moment. May we use the spaciousness that we inherit not as a void to flee away from, rather as a place to build temples in honor and memory of the unconditional love that now calls for another form to continue to grow. May we always nest in the knowledge of how privileged it is to have loved so deeply that our logical mind doesn't know how to be without. May we use the in-betweenness of our grieving to choose, to decide what our next iteration of embodied love will be. May we remember what truly matters in the grand scheme of our lives, especially when the ego grips and claws in the illusion of control. May we allow this overwhelming pain and uncertainty to flow freely through us, to show us with certainty that we are not weakened because we have loved and lost. Rather, we are strengthened by the everlasting bond we share with another being. May we stand in the knowledge that we are vessels of love and love only. And when everything else is removed, love will always continue to live beyond the physical form we once called by a familiar name. There, always. Thank you for being part of today's episode and walking with me. As the seasons of life shift, we hold the power to navigate our path with courage, intuition, and wisdom, and embrace change with an open heart, for within it lies the potential for remarkable growth and evolution. If this conversation resonated with you, please subscribe on your favorite platform, leave a heartfelt review, and share it on social media. If you know someone who would benefit from this episode, I'd be honored if you shared it with them. You can stay connected with me on social media, where I continue to share insights and inspiration. And for a deeper connection, you can join my Telegram community for exclusive content and real-time conversation. You'll find the link in the show notes. Until our next encounter, keep exploring, embracing change, and finding joy in every moment. And remember, you can always come back here and walk with me.